You're struggling because you're allowing yourself to skip. Just one day can cascade into a missed year, which ultimately leads to a life squandered. You express a desire for success and freedom, but a closer look at your calendar reveals a pattern of gaps, hesitations, abandonment, and drift. Had you consistently embraced the right thoughts, actions, and goals every single day, you would have already achieved your freedom. But instead, you chose to skip, to procrastinate, and to give yourself permission to rest before establishing the rhythm that eventually allows for rest. Now, you're left wondering why change hasn't come. This isn't just a motivational speech, it's a warning. If you continue to skip today, you run the risk of skipping your future as well. The universe does not reward talent alone. It is indifferent to cleverness or inspiration. What it rewards is consistency. Progress comes not from sporadic efforts, but from repeated actions over time. If you want life to yield to you, return to your commitment. Focus on your thoughts and discipline. All the power resides with the one who refuses to skip, day in and day out, without excuses, even when motivation wanes. The individual who returns daily to their purpose, despite fatigue or obscurity, is the one who commands respect from the universe. If you seek results, stop waiting for motivation to strike. Instead, practice obedience to your goals. You are not just tired. You are lacking discipline. You are not stuck. You are inconsistent. You're not lost. You've simply stopped adhering to the plan you once set out when you still had faith in yourself. Some men dabble and some men train. Some men start with enthusiasm but never finish, while others become fierce and unyielding, tougher than the challenges they face. This message speaks to those willing to be that second kind, those who are steadfast in their pursuit of results, peace, and power. Build the man who never misses a day. That journey starts now. Let me share a truth you've been avoiding. The outcomes you desire have already been laid out on your calendar. They reside in the repetitive actions you were supposed to commit to 6 months, a year, or even 5 years ago. The work was straightforward and the goal clear, but you chose to bypass it. You skipped the discipline, the daily affirmation of your intentions. With each moment you let slip away, you moved further from the person you were destined to become. Success is not an enigma. It is not something shrouded in mystery or magic. It is merely the compounded result of consistent effort. Sadly, most people cannot sustain that rhythm long enough to witness transformation. They plant their seeds of ambition and then uproot them the very next day. They voice their aspirations only to let fear creep in moments later. They act for a week, then wait for the spark of motivation to reappear. But the laws of achievement do not respond to feelings. They are governed by obedience. A man who adheres to his commitments, even in the absence of emotion, constructs a foundation of power that the world cannot ignore. No matter how brilliant your plan may be, if you abandon it every time you encounter fatigue, you remain enslaved by weakness. Regardless of how deeply you desire something, if you only act when it suits you, you are not crafting a future. You're merely indulging a fantasy. Consistency is not merely a character trait. It is a spiritual law. You must either abide by it or face failure. You either live within its embrace or fall victim to its absence. If you desire wealth, speak of it daily. Aim for it consistently. Affirm your intention each day. Construct an unyielding structure around your goals. This should not be contingent upon your mood, favorable circumstances, or the alignment of motivational content with your routine. It must be daily, without exception, without apology. The individual who commits to this consistency becomes a formidable presence, feared by detractors, trusted by allies, and watched by the world. For when a man stops skipping, he becomes inevitable, certain, and a force to be reckoned with. Let me clarify. Everything you wish for, discipline, wealth, confidence, clarity, and dominion, lies behind the imposing wall known as consistency. The only way to break it down is not through sheer force, but through relentless, persistent repetition. I'll guide you in this speech on how to make consistency not just a habit, but an integral part of your identity. I'll show you how to transform into the person who never falters, how to train your mind to engage without hesitation, and how to establish success as the default pattern of your existence, rather than an occasional stroke of luck. However, this will demand a war, not against external obstacles, but against your emotions, your excuses, and the remnants of your former self that still believe in resting before taking action. You have to recognize that just one missed day aren't as harmless as it seems. Each break creates a fracture in the pattern you've been trying to establish. One lapse can crush momentum, while a moment of weakness justifies the next 100. You must become relentless in your approach. You are the enforcer of your own laws, and you must declare, "I do not skip." Not as a casual intention, but as a core part of your identity. Every thought, action, and routine should align with that affirmation. Say this boldly: I obey consistency as a law. I do not skip. I repeat until I achieve my goals. Let these words engrave themselves into your soul. Allow them to reshape your habits, marking the end of the man who only acted when it was easy. Your past self is now irrelevant. The man who is unwavering begins today. Inconsistency is not mild. It's not simply forgetfulness or harmless. It is a betrayal of your true potential, a quiet acceptance of mediocrity while professing to aspire for greatness. It breeds delayed destinies disguised as leisurely breaks. Each time you allow yourself to neglect the structure you designed to propel you forward, you instigate your own demise. A man does not crumble in a single day. He unravels through moments of surrender, missed commitments, and whispered justifications for settling for less. When your environment became cluttered and your voice lost its clarity, all of it started with a single skipped day. Just as one skip leads to another, every time you slip, you reshape your identity, from a builder to a bargainer, from a finisher to someone who hesitates. You move from a position of strength to one that apologizes for who you used to be. Understand this: once you dismiss what you once revered, you've chosen the path of drift over discipline. Comfort takes the reins, and unless you swiftly sever that pattern, it will solidify into a habit, one that dictates your identity and, ultimately, your fate. This world has seen too many men who almost reached greatness, those who possessed skills, passion, and ambition, but faltered in maintaining a consistent rhythm. A business doesn't collapse in an instant. It disintegrates when its architect ceases to show up daily. A physical form doesn't deteriorate overnight. It wanes when discipline slips, and the urgency dissipates. A reputation isn't obliterated by a solitary mistake. It erodes gradually through the absence of daily commitment. The real tragedy does not lie in the losses endured, but in the potential of who you could have become had you simply stayed the course. Therefore, Consistency isn't optional. It is a fundamental law. Your subconscious mind, which executes every directive you impart, does not respond to bursts of passion. It reacts to recurring actions. It is not swayed by the volume of your declarations, but is molded by how frequently you revisit your aims, vocalize them, and live them out, even in the absence of applause or visible progress. You might possess the ideal plan, sound objectives, or wise mentors. Yet if you neglect the process, the results will elude you. The individual who ultimately triumphs is seldom the swiftest, but is instead the one who refuses to miss a beat. It is far more advantageous to consistently pursue minor tasks than to sporadically undertake significant actions. Daily presence holds more value than fleeting brilliance followed by extended absence. Mastery is not cultivated through emotion. It is shaped by habit. It requires the discipline of facing challenges daily, even when you feel worn out, invisible, or tempted toward distractions. This distinction separates the builders from mere dreamers. Heed this warning. If you find yourself rationalizing that skipping just one day holds no consequence, you are already on a dangerous downward slope. The first missed day signifies a granting of permission to yourself and a shift in what you expect from your abilities. When your mind stops taking you seriously, it ceases to construct what you envision. By skipping, you delay your goals and deny your identity. You demonstrate that your promises are conditional, and a man who treats his commitments lightly will never attain greatness. You must become fierce in your campaign against inconsistency. There can be no room for excuses or justifications. One weak moment cannot sabotage a pattern that was meant to transform your life. If a pattern breaks, so too does the power associated with it. Should you seek to reclaim that power, you must restart not from where you left off, but from below, reconstructing what you once neglected. Yet there is good news. Consistency can be rebuilt, rhythm can be restored, and patterns can be recommitted to. Once your mind perceives your return as unwavering and without justification or weakness, it will begin to yield to your authority once more. Proclaim this now. I show up regardless of my mood. One day off means one day of delay. Repeat it with intention, not as a mere phrase, but as a new standard. Let these truths govern you, awaken you, and propel you from your comfort zone into action. Remind yourself that your future is constructed not in sporadic bursts of energy, but through the steady flame of daily commitment. You must now forge the man who shows up, not as a suggestion, but as a matter of law. Skipping an obligation must no longer be acceptable. Treat your routines as sanctified, your discipline as sacred, and your words as binding. If you commit to action, repetition, and structure, you won't have to wait long for visible results. Consistency reigns supreme, not just sometimes, but always. The laws of achievement cannot dismiss the individual who articulates truth consistently until that truth materializes. All power resides with those who persistently repeat their efforts, not with those who display flair for a moment, but with those who return to the same tasks, thoughts, and patterns day after day until the world is compelled to yield to them. Greatness does not arise from the person who initiates a myriad of endeavors, but rather from the individual who faithfully executes one pursuit until it submits to his will. Consistency is the mark of a leader. Repetition is the crown that elevates the builder above the ordinary. It is through repetition that empires are built, identities are forged, fortunes are created, and legacies are established. The thoughts you consistently entertain morph into your beliefs. These beliefs crystallize into attitudes which, when translated into action repeatedly, shape your character, habits, and power. You do not attain strength simply by contemplating it. True strength emerges from repeatedly confronting resistance until what once felt heavy becomes manageable. Wealth doesn't materialize simply through vocalizing desires. It requires relentless pursuit until abundance is compelled to follow. In studying the greats, I observed a singular commonality among them. All were masters of repetition, unyielding where others faltered. They did not solicit new ideas every single week. They didn't require constant novelty. They identified a truth, repeated it, recognized their objective, held firm to it, and walked the path until their footsteps were etched upon it. Take Thomas Edison as an example. He didn't stumble upon the electric light through mere inspiration. He encountered thousands of failures and yet never wavered nor abandoned his goal. He tested, refined, and continually returned to the same question until the answer was unveiled. This is true power. Persistence is merely repetition in the face of resistance. It captures the essence of an individual who refuses to be denied. It represents the enduring fire that burns longer than frustration, fatigue, or failure. The temptation to divert your course in the face of delay is natural, but understand that delay is not denial. It's the proving ground where life asks, will you persist long enough to merit what you've sought? Many commence their journey charged with enthusiasm, but as time passes, they fade into apathy. They launch themselves with intensity, but eventually succumb to excuses. However, the individual who returns, who adheres to the same effort with unwavering belief and focus, becomes unbreakable. Let's not misinterpret this. Daily discipline isn't glamorous. It doesn't promise immediate gratification. Yet, it remains undefeated. The person who trains with discipline each day becomes a master. The individual who revisits their purpose daily embodies that purpose. The one who holds a single aim longer than others are distracted will not be denied. If you desire power, learn the art of repetition. Repeat your goals, your actions, your commitments, not until it becomes hard, but until it feels automatic. Don't stop until it's an intrinsic part of who you are. Your body should recognize your work like a prayer. Your mind should know your objectives as a consistent song. Your spirit should invigorate at the rhythm of your schedule. Here is a principle few grasp. Repetition fosters momentum, and that momentum breeds confidence. Once confidence is automatic, you exhibit a quiet strength. Dangerous not because of loud declarations, but through steady resolve. The loudest voices often mask insecurities, while the individual who humbly repeats their work, uncelebrated, is the one who creates legacies. Proclaim again, I repeat my goals until the world bends to my will. I master my path by returning to the same place each day. Allow these affirmations to anchor your identity, to redefine your standards, and to dismantle the previous version of yourself who relied on motivation. Replace the appetite for novelty with a hunger for dominion. Mastery does not derive from innate ability. It stems from the commitment to repetition. The person who repeats their actions becomes the law. They establish the baseline by which others assess themselves, not out of a desire for recognition, but because they've earned that right through their efforts. Repetition shapes how your subconscious operates. It lays the foundation for beliefs that lead to habits, which ultimately define your identity. You cannot avoid the process. Mastery cannot be expedited. You must continue your journey, returning time and time again, until you become the embodiment of the person you aspire to be. Like, share, and comment to support our work and spread the message.